Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube. I got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yeah, Jaden Rashada has sued Florida and Billy. It was only a matter of time, and we've got a huge Chaz Lanier update. We're going to get right on into it. But first, you'll notice a couple of bumps across my head. I'm going to tell you all about that here in a little bit as well. But first, let's get into this lawsuit. All right. On Tuesday morning, Jaden Rashada did file a lawsuit against Florida, Billy Napier, a mega donor, Hugh Hathcock, and a former staff member, Marcus Castro. And the mega donor, he did own Velocity Automotive, that was also named as a defendant. And it was all over a 4-year deal of $13.85 million. It was an NIL deal that kind of blew up. And this thing went on for quite a while. We covered the crap out of it. He was originally committed to Miami, who supposedly offered him $9.5 million bucks. And then I guess Florida outbid them, and it wound up getting up to like $13 million, which I thought was kind of crazy. I mean, we got Nico, the number one player in the country, for an $8 million deal, and they're paying $13 for a guy that was the number 6 quarterback in the standings. He was either a low 5-star or a high 4-star, very good player, but $13 million seemed extremely high. And where Billy Napier comes into this, supposedly, and again, this is an accusation, it's not a fact, accusation that Napier promised Rashada $1 million if he signed his national letter of intent back in December, which was the early National Signing Day, which has basically become the National Signing Day. And he was also allegedly owed a $500,000 signing bonus on December 5th, which was never paid out, despite being assured multiple times that it would be. Again, though, that's the accusation. And the allegation at the center of this is that a coach promised a $1 million payment. It says the allegation of that complaint is the biggest lawsuit we've seen to date. It says the school, a direct employee of the school, was the one directing these efforts. This is a seismic lawsuit. At the time this occurred, nothing was allowed. Nothing was allowing a coach to have this kind of involvement with the payment scheme. And the NCAA was actually investigating Florida before Tennessee smacked them down up in the courts, up in the federal courts up in Greenville, and pretty much saved their bacon because Florida was getting ready to get hammered over this, and they were going to make an example out of them. So
you're welcome.
You're welcome, Florida. We saved you big time on that one, which is kind of ironic, especially given the fact that they are my nemesis. It says the lawsuit says that talks with Florida reignited roughly 4 months after Rashada committed to Miami, when Castro reached out to agents in October of 2022. It says, according to the suit, the former director of player engagement sent a text message saying, we need to lock down Jaden. So it sounds like they do have some facts here. It says UF would want Jaden to flip this week. That's the same day Rashada would ultimately flip to Florida. Hathcock declined to use Velocity Automotive or his NIL collective to directly fund the NIL payments, according to the complaint. On December 6th, the day after the $500,000 bonus was due, the Gator Collective terminated the contract in a letter sent to Rashada, sources told On3. It says the actions culminated with Coach Napier himself vouching that Florida alumni were good on their promise that Jaden would receive $1 million if he signed with UF on National Signing Day. So obviously that money never got paid, and thus we have this lawsuit a year later.
Where's my money? Where's my money? Yeah, you got money to pay for fake mustaches, huh?
And, of course, he went to Arizona State, and he played there until he got hurt, and now he's at Georgia, of all places. Georgia, just the rich keeps getting richer. Now, as you know, I have the original contract, and I've shown it to you many times, and this is actually it. And how I know it's official, first of all, I'm the one that procured it. And secondly, it has the Florida logo on it, so it pretty much has to be. And on top of that, they use the very best paper that really takes the ink, and that's a 2-ply type of stationery that you would only use on something this important. So needless to say, I was at great risk in getting this contract in my own hands, and that has a lot to do with these bumps on my head. Needless to say, Florida wants that contract, and they came to try to get it, and this occurred. But you should see what they look like.
No, not really. I can't back that up.
Okay, I really can't back that up. No, what actually happened, what caused this, I played golf in the mountains yesterday, and that's where my hat sat, and obviously some mosquitoes got up there and wore me out real good. They were actually quite polite about it. One of them offered me a glass of orange juice when he was done, which I thought was reasonable. But needless to say, they got me good. And look, that's the price you pay when you play golf. Sometimes you're going to get bit by a bug. It's just the way it is. So be it. It was worth it. It was fun. But anyway, they do want that contract, and I'm assuming they'll contact me for it because this is a very important piece of paper. So this is going to be going on for a while, and this is really interesting. I'm telling you, had the NCAA not been nailed by that judge in federal courts over NIL, they'd be all over Florida right now. And this is really interesting because they could almost use, let's say Billy has a bad year this year, they could almost use this as grounds, or they could have used this as grounds to get out of that contract with him, a la Jeremy Pruitt. But given the fact there are no NIL rules right now, and they can't really do anything about it, and they're not going to be able to, I think he's going to be cleared of any of that. As far as this lawsuit is concerned, that's different because this is over fraud. So, like I said, this is an accusation. You'd have to actually see proof. And I don't know how you're going to get that on Napier unless he, texted it to him, which I doubt, or an email or something. It may have just been verbal, and that'll be his word versus, I guess it's Rashada's father. So anyway, I knew it was going to wind up in a big mess. It had to. You don't have a contract or you're going to pay somebody $13 million and then back out of it. Because look, he could have got a bunch of money from Miami. He backed out of the Miami deal, and they're paying lots of money down there in order to get this. So he's definitely owed that. And I don't know who's going to have to pay it out of these 4 or 5 entities that he's gone after, but he's probably going to get something because he did forego a great offer from Miami. Even if it wasn't 9.5, it was still a lot of money that he didn't get. And Miami moved on and forgot about Rashada because, look, they're not going to outbid 13 point whatever. So I can understand him being very upset, and he wants his money. So we'll keep an eye on this, but this was going to occur eventually. Now let's talk about Chaz Lanier. For the Kentucky and Tennessee fans, I know everybody's been watching this like a hawk for the last couple of weeks. It's really been interesting, and Chaz Lanier is really a prize out there. I call this the Chaz sweepstakes. And let's get into what's going on because the winds have changed dramatically over the last 24 hours. And people have been going crazy on Twitter over this. And Sullen Surf, he covers Tennessee a lot. He gets out a lot of good information. He said, Sean Sparks via the Vol Vault just posted this graphic regarding Chaz Lanier. Don't know where he gets his info. I know it's not from VolQuest, but every time he has posted this graphic, he has been correct. It says locked it up. Now, one Wildcat says the entire recruitment has been crazy. Everyone's saying this and that, but it does appear Kentucky is still in the running for Chaz Lanier. Here's one guy that says, if UT wins the Chaz Lanier sweepstakes and UK then gets Jackson Robinson, all is well for Mark Pope, but miss on both, and it gets a bit dicey. Pope needs a wing score. It says Cade Phillips just followed Chaz Lanier. JP Estrella of the VOLS and Chaz Lanier just followed each other on Instagram. One guy, Kentucky guy, says, hey, guys, I might be the only one, but I wanted Chaz Lanier. Stop acting like we didn't just lose him. Kentucky wanted him to. Now they might want Jackson Robinson more, but we wanted him. And here's from Nick Roush. He said, I was never all in on Chaz. He did nothing for 3 years, then blew up in year 4 in the same conference that Bellarmine plays in. For that reason alone, I've never considered him a bona fide superstar than others did. And Nick Roush is one of my favorites on Kentucky Sports Radio. He is a guy that will get a little bit emotional at times if things don't go well.
Mark Stoops is 2-9 against this team, and to walk around this place before the game, I was disgusted. The smugness of those guys just walking around like, we're going to walk in here, we're going to kick your ass, and you can't do anything about it. And it made me sick. And you know what? They did it. They still did it.
Yeah. That was legendary. I can't even give him grief on that because I have felt that way so many times. Here's a guy, Big Orange Hypel, says, is Chaz Lanier officially official? I don't think so, not yet. Here's a guy that says, hearing a lot of Chaz Lanier Tennessee chatter, but nothing official. I'm not locking it in until he does it himself. Here's a bunch of people that are already celebrating. They think for sure he's going to UT. And a bunch of other folks are already celebrating. So if I had to put a percentage on this, I'd probably put it about 90% that Lanier's in the boat. I'm not putting him in the boat just yet, but it sure sounds like that Tennessee's got him on the line and he's getting real close.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
They've definitely set the hook. It's not impossible that he could still go to Kentucky or BYU. Well, BYU I just don't see that happening. It's either Kentucky or Tennessee, and right now it's leaning heavily Tennessee's way, and he's an ideal fit, and you can understand why. Look, Mark Pope's already got 11 guys lined up. Okay, and a lot of them are really good players, a lot of really good three-point shooters because Mark Pope shoots the three a bunch in his offense. Whereas Tennessee has focused heavily on Chaz Lanier. He is their Dalton Connect 2.0 that they're hoping for, and pretty much I'm sure they've told him that. So if you're Chaz Lanier, do you want to go a place where there's already 11 guys, many can do what you can do as far as hitting threes, and be part of what could be a great offense, which it's still a really good choice if he chooses Kentucky? Or do you want to go to a place where they've said, look, we're focused on you. We want you to be the alpha in this offense, and you're going to be the guy we're going to go to when we need points. It's hard to say no to that, especially if the money's about the same as far as NIL. And I'm sure it's probably very similar. Kentucky, I believe, had $4 million of NIL to spend. That was the report. They probably spent a bunch of that on those 11 dudes. I mean, they're not coming there for free. Every single one of them got money. They're all really good. So I would expect they made him a good offer, and I'm sure Tennessee did too, and he's probably thinking, dang, they've got a spot for me. They've already got it figured out for me, and I need to work on my defense, which Rick Barnes will help him with, as opposed to going somewhere where the coach is brand new. He's trying to get everybody put together. I think he would have been successful at Kentucky and still can be if he chooses Kentucky. But for me, as a former athlete myself, I would have picked Tennessee, not because I'm a Tennessee guy, but because who's not going to want to be the man? Look, we want you to be the next Dalton. That's a heck of a selling point, and especially from Rick Barnes, who's already done it. So Mark Pope, he's going to get his share of victories when it comes to recruiting. It looks like Tennessee's probably going to get this one. And on another note, it looks like all the conferences are voting for the $2.7 billion settlement with the NCAA versus House and all those other lawsuits, the class action lawsuits, and we've been talking about that quite a bit. ACC and Big 12 have already voted in favor of it. Of course, the Big 10 and the SEC will. And, I did find out one thing. The Big East commissioner, Val Ackerman, I told you yesterday I didn't know how much she made. And she's the one that said Big East doesn't have enough money to pay for this settlement. Right here, she makes about $1.6 million a year. And she says that the Big East colleges can't afford to pay $600,000 a year for 10 years to settle this big NCAA settlement. It's just too much for them.
You serious?
Here are the schools, by the way. Yeah, the University of Connecticut can't pay $600,000 a year for 10 years. They've just won the last 2 national titles. Let's see, Villanova, they won a national title recently. They can't afford it either. St. John's can't find $600,000. Georgetown certainly can't. Seton Hall, Xavier, Creighton, DePaul, Marquette, they can't afford it. And the person saying they can't afford it's making $1.6 million.
What? Please, sir, I want some more.
More?
You can't make this crap up. You just can't. There's nothing more annoying than somebody making an incredibly huge salary talking about how they can't afford anything. All I have to say to folks like that, the Jimbo Fishers of the world, is this.
Shut up!
Yeah, shut up. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear somebody making $1.6 million a year talking about how their universities can't afford $600,000. That's that same mentality that said, give us all the money, the coaches, the administrators, all that, and don't let the kids have a dollar. They loved it that way. And that's fine. Look, I totally appreciate the tradition of that. But it's not fair. It's not. And now things are getting fair, and you've got these super rich people claiming they don't have any money. So it is what it is. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all this college sports. If you've not subscribed, it's very easy. It'll help you keep up with this information because I try to bring it out every day. Hit this little button right here. It won't cost you a dime, and it would help me. I would certainly appreciate it. And right over here is the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And hopefully I can get over these bug bites. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.